Today we're going to be covering some really solid cologne fragrances that I think even really prestigious and picky niche snobs would agree that these are not half bad. Because really across the board these are exhibiting some great quality, great performance, and ultimately some really good accuracy when it comes to cloning these much more expensive fragrances. You know, I've said it before, but it really is true. Things are just getting more and more expensive, and for most people this is a hobby. Meaning, you know, you have to kind of watch your spending a little bit. You know, rent, mortgage, car payments, work, food on the table, that stuff comes first. And so if you can kind of get by with going for some more affordable alternatives, but still have an understanding of what everybody else around you is talking about, you know, the much more expensive stuff, these are a great option. You don't have to go out there and completely bankrupt yourself to keep up with this hobby and to smell good. And so love it or hate it, these clone brands, they're popping up like crazy because there's a big demand for this right now more than ever. I mean, what does that tell you? Because back when I was starting out, there were clones, Armaf, they were pretty popular at that time, but nowhere near what they're doing today. And so today we've got some really good contenders for you that are just fantastic, really affordable, but also impressively good, high quality clones. So I'm going to link all these down below. I mean, the only way you can really get these is through discounters. So make sure you're shopping through discounters and you can pick these up for really good prices. Pretty much everything here, except for maybe a couple, are under 50 bucks. A lot of them under 40 bucks. Some maybe even under $30. First one, we have Fragrance World Liquid Brun. This is one of the newest releases. It's French Avenue. That reminded me when I turned the bottle around, French Avenue, but you know, it's really Fragrance World. They're just kind of branching off and putting out some different brands, kind of like a lot of other brands do, Paris Corner and so on. And like I said, this is one of the newer ones. It's going to be a little bit more expensive right now, but still not crazy. And it's new because it's a clone of PDM Altair, which is relatively new as of, last year. So really nice vanilla, chestnut, gourmand-leaning sweet scent. This is very much keeping up with modern perfumery, being that it's very sweet, it's using that kind of edible chestnut gourmand accord, and it's also beast mode. All of those things are kind of what's being pumped out all over the place these days. For what it's worth, I really like this a lot, the PDM that is, and so by default, I really like this one a lot too because it's just about spot on. You can tell a difference a little bit, but I honestly think if I was blindfolded and I had to try to differentiate them, I would struggle with it. You know, when I have them side by side and I know which one is which, I can kind of see the difference between them. But man, if I didn't know going into it, I would struggle. And that's kind of the case with a lot of these, some more so than others, but the accuracy on this one is great. The quality is really good as well. The performance, also amazing. With the price of PDMs not being really readily available on discounters anymore, it gets harder and harder to recommend them, and it gets easier and easier to recommend the clones. Definitely check this one out. Okay, next up we have another relatively new one on the block. However, what this is cloning is not new at all. What this is cloning has been out for years, so it's kind of an interesting one. And it just shows that they're just going back through the catalogs and kind of seeing what hasn't been done yet and doing it. It's really quite fascinating, and I'd love to see behind the scenes of what goes on when these brands are deciding what to clone, because this one's kind of random, but I'm also really happy to see it. It is Pandora Scents Designation Platina Pour Homme, and I mean, you know, kind of written on the wall there, and the bottle, right? Look at that presentation, look at that name. Chanel Platinum Egoiste. I'm really happy to confirm that this smells a lot like that Chanel. Now, and really, Chanel Platinum Egoiste is not crazy expensive. It's one that actually is on discounters every now and then for just a touch over $100, which really isn't all that bad. That's your typical Dior and YSL and Gucci pricing, really. So, I mean, nothing crazy, but still $100 versus, you know, 30 or so, still a big difference there. And this smells a lot like it. Really impressive. A lot of that geranium, a lot of the lavender, kind of that slightly green, minty, oak mossy smell, a lot of that lavender, that soapy, fresh out of the shower, gentleman's shower gel smell, not to be confused with new style Bleu de Chanel Dylan Blue shower gel. Like, if I were to describe this one, I would say that this was like the Sauvage of the 90s. I don't remember when this stuff was released. But back before they had blue fragrances left and right, this kind of is like that in a way, where it's just clean and soapy and fresh and masculine and just really sexy smelling. But like I said, that's Chanel, about $100. This one's significantly less, and so really good option if you want to save some money. It's an aromatic fougere barbershop style scent, but with a modern, refreshed smell. Even though this was released a long time ago, still today, it smells like a nice update to this more classic style of DNA. Okay, this next one is going to be the one that's over $50 by quite a bit, but also it's still significantly less than what the real one is going for. It's Parfums Vintage Emperor Absolu. One thing that's cool about them, I pointed out last time that I haven't seen anyone else do, you can actually select the bottle that you want, like the design, the coloration, and all of that stuff. Never seen that before. That's something pretty cool. And so this one is a clone of Creed Absolu Aventus, or Aventus Absolu, either one. Not the triple aged batch. I don't know what's going to be going on with that, just Absolu Aventus. 75 ml bottle, kind of bringing that back. What is that DNA? Well, that's kind of just a little bit of a nod back to older style Aventus, but it still isn't nearly as smoky as like 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013 batches, even some 14s. Not to that level. It can't be, really, because of just the way that the restrictions are these days, but pretty close. And this is definitely really close to Absolu Aventus, which I like a lot. I'm a sucker for anything Aventus. I love that stuff. It was my wedding day scent. It's just one of my all-time favorites. We'll never get tired of it. And so this was one of the first clones to market. There are other ones out there now, but I believe this was one of the first. Much more of a premium price, more of a premium option as well. A little over $100 for this. Not cheap by any means, but also still not 500 plus retail or 300 plus discounter. So still a big difference there. Okay, next up we have Pandora Scents Charuto Mysterious Tobacco. Kind of giving a little bit of a red tobacco by Mancera slash mystery tobacco by Carolina Herrera smell. Kind of like a cross between those two. A mystery tobacco is not as strong as red tobacco. Red tobacco is brutally strong, and they're using some oud in there as well, which adds to that strength, and it's that Mancera oud, so kind of synthetic and just very common smelling across all of the Manceras, but still not an oud scent by any means. Still tobacco focused, but a little bit there, just adding to that power and that strength behind it. So that's kind of where this one falls. Not as strong as the red tobacco as far as scent delivery. It kind of takes more of the middle road there, just kind of splitting the difference between them. I think this one and these Charuto fragrances in general are into the $20 range. I think Tobacco Vanille, Charuto Tobacco Vanille is like 20-ish. This one is around the same, maybe 30 max. But these are a lot more budget friendly. And really, Mancera red tobacco is not all that expensive either. 70, 80 bucks on discounters. The Intense one is out, and that's maybe 100 bucks, sometimes a bit less. Still, there is a variance between 20 to 30 and 70 to 80 or 100. So a lot of people might say just go for the Mancera because it's not that much more. That's all subjective. Okay, next up we have Paris Corner Amir When Soul Gets High. So this is actually a clone of Killian Back to Black. So it has the cherry, the honey, the tobacco, a bunch more notes. I mean, if you look at the notes of Back to Black, and if you look at the notes of this, it's on Fragrantica, it's insane. But it also puts it right in line with Killian Back to Black. Killian Back to Black is not one that I'm reaching for as much as some of the others, like Black Phantom, Intoxicated, Straight to Heaven, and a few more, because of the sheer potency and delivery of this one. It can be a bit much sometimes, and the performance so strong that can also be a bit of a deterrent sometimes, because sometimes I just don't want something that brutally strong that's attacking me 24/7. There's definitely a trade-off when it comes to really good performance. It's great a lot of the times, and for a lot of people it's glamorized, and I want a 24-hour projecting monster scent, until you wear it multiple times and it's just constantly, just diving up your nose. It starts to get tiring. That's kind of how this stuff is. But if you want a clone of Back to Black, a really good quality one, great performance coming from this too, definitely check out When Soul Gets High. You get a nice little tassel there too. Okay, next up we have Fragrance World Invicto Elixir. So pretty much no surprise here. It is a Invictus Victory Elixir clone, and a really, really good one at that. Super impressed with this one. I got it in for the first time, obviously knowing what it was going to be. It was just a matter of, is it going to be pretty accurate? Is it going to be maybe more of a miss? You know, what's it going to be? And it's really, really accurate. You get a lot of that vanilla, a lot of that tonka, some incense. It just embodies that DNA, which is really good, to be fair. As much as we want to get tired of and hate on the Elixir releases, Victory Elixir is one of the best within the Invictus line as far as what's in production right now. I really do think it's good. I would say, you know, Victory and Victory Elixir are a lot better than you might expect to be given the past history of Invictus, which is just a little bit to be desired in some instances for a lot of people. So Victory Elixir, parfum concentration, $100, a little bit over. I think FragranceNet had it for like 107 before it sold out for 100 ml. So not astronomical, but not cheap or budget friendly by any means. This one is, you know, it's under $40 or maybe right around there right now. Still relatively new, and price will kind of work its way down as time goes on. But it's a really, really good affordable alternative for you. Okay, next up we have a clone brand that I guess is pretty new because I hadn't heard of them before, but it's from Emperor. It's Valentino Wo Intense. Really, really clever and sharp presentation here because you got the texturing just like Valentino Wo Intense, and that kind of always leads to the question, if it looks like it and it sounds like it, does it smell like it? And in this instance it does. That's not always the case. And I'm not talking about Emperor, I'm just saying in general, sometimes you're kind of misled with how they might name and bottle things clone-wise. But this one does check out. It does have that iris, vanilla, leather combination. And the leather is what separates Valentino Wo Intense to Gentleman Eau de Parfum and Dior Homme Intense and, you know, all of those really. So just a nice little different approach. The leather gives a little bit more of a masculine edge, a little bit more of a heavier undertone instead of just all sweetness from iris and tonka and vanilla and maybe kind of a chocolatey accord. So that's kind of what separates these. You know, the Valentino is about $100 or so. It kind of can be a little bit tricky to track down on discounters, sometimes sold out, but you can always get it at retail. These Emperor clones are in the $20 range. One of the more budget-friendly clone brands. You know, a lot of the Lattafas, a lot of the Fragrance Worlds, 30 to 40. These even less than that, and they're really good for the price, so don't let that scare you either. Okay, next up we have Milestone Perfumes, Ombre Sun, or is it just Amber? I don't know. I do know it's part of their Velvet collection, and I do know that it has like a nice soft velvet around the cap, just like Dolce & Gabbana Amber Sun, which this is a clone of. This one's got vanilla, smoke, opopanax, amberwood, myrrh, benzoin, all of that stuff going on. Smells really, really good, really resinous, very sweet, very heavy and rich and syrupy. Gosh, that stuff smells amazing. Now, the cost of Velvet Sun, I'm not even sure what it's going for, but I know it's expensive. This stuff is not going to be budget friendly, just like the rest of these, and a really nice, more kind of niche approach from a designer brand, something a lot more unique. Next up, we have Mark & Victor Eau de Spice Extreme by Fragrance World, and no surprise here, it's a Spice Bomb Extreme clone. Yeah, I mean, who would have guessed, right? I mean, look at that. They don't care. They're just going after it. Spice Bomb Extreme, it's the same deal with a lot of these, 110 or so for 90 ml on discounter, so the price per milliliter is a little bit steep. You're getting shorted 10 ml standard. Sometimes, you know, things are offered in 120 or 125, so, you know, they're a little bit more expensive that way. But this one, again, is in the $30 to $40 range, and it is a really, really close take to Spice Bomb Extreme. It has that tobacco, it has the vanilla and the pepper. It just embodies what Spice Bomb Extreme is and offers it to you at a price significantly less. We're going to end this video with Woody Oud EDP by Alhambra. And again, Tom Ford Oud Wood. Not going to try to make you guess because these are just too obvious. Oud Wood is one of the most popular Tom Fords, I would say, as far as private blends. It's probably Oud Wood, Tuscan Leather, and, you know, what else? That's kind of the main ones there. And so, you know, oud would definitely reach the mainstream quite a bit. You know, you would see a lot of non-fragrance people, at least big time ones, rocking that stuff. And so definitely a nice affordable alternative. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. Some fantastic affordable fragrance clones that are way better than you might think. And even if you're critical and even if you like niche and high-end stuff, you got to admit, these are really good at the price point. I will link them all down below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.